Namo Buddhaya, Namo Mitavaya, Savadikap, Tishi Delek, Ni Hao. Thank you. Hello and welcome everyone to International Buddhism Tourism Conference. It is so wonderful to see you all here. I would like to extend a special welcome to Tourism Council of Bhutan, PATA, Destination Mekong, IIPT, Air Dance, Suchai Travel, Bhutan Travel Center, Korea Tourism Organizations, and many others who have supported us. Many of you are watching this live webinar on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, websites, and other platforms. Thank you so much for being here today. Before we start, I would like to ask you all to pray together for all the people who have suffered because of the COVID, for all the businesses and many children who end up in poverty because of this virus. Let us pray that all the people from different religions will live together in peace and harmony. Only together we can fight the global warming, climate change, viruses, and many other challenges that we are facing. I give now the word to our fabulous moderator today, Dr. Bridget Trower.
Thank you very much, Riza, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you may be in the world right now. We are very happy to know that you could all join us here today, be that directly via the Zoom session, the YouTube, or any other social media. Now, before we immerse ourselves in this important webinar, I want to thank Dr. Riza Sultani, the founder of the Tourism Webinar, and also Mr. Yafi Yi, the chief organizer of the International Buddhist Tourism Conference, for bringing this webinar today to life. Otherwise, we would not be here together. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Also, thank you, Riza, for once again inviting me to take on the role as moderator for one of your webinar sessions. I very much look forward to introducing all the distinguished and exciting speakers today that follow all the information that will be shared today. I'm sure today's webinar will enrich all of us with insights and knowledge that foster thoughtful hearts and caring minds in many ways. We have the honor of the presence of the following distinguished speakers who will present in the following order. I will only introduce everyone at this point by name, and later on, as we progress, I will provide the titles of each speaker's presentation and a brief bio at that time also. We have Mr. Yafi Ji, Professor Victor Wee, Dr. Ajahn Sutil, Dr. Tal Brifai, Mr. Lim Khoi Fong, Dr. Andrea Valentin, Mr. Jens Trantat, Dr. Worasit, and to conclude myself. Right. Well, to gain some more insights into each speaker's background, please, before I forget, explore the Tourism Webinars website, where you'll find extended biographies. But there's so much rich background to each one of you, which was a joy for me to read, but I will certainly not have the time to present to all the people who are online. Already also, I've mentioned to the speakers, and I would say it again, apologies in advance if I mispronounce any of the speakers' names here today. I have tried to familiarize myself with them and practice saying them, but I'm sure my German English pronunciation will not really do your names justice. Please correct me if I say anything incorrectly. Now, right here, I thought it would be a good idea to mention a couple of practical agendas, often referred to as housekeeping rules. I always find that they help our beautiful energies to connect as best as possible, especially like here today via cyberspace. So firstly, we asked all of you to mute during all the presentations so that all the speakers can proceed without distractions. The PowerPoints will all be made available on the website after this webinar today. Also, as the program ends, after all the presentations have concluded, when we can put up your hand and indicate that you would like to comment or ask questions. Of course, during all the webinars and Zoom sessions that I've been part of, I'd like to highlight here that you're most welcome to use the chat function here on Zoom for any comments and questions as they arise along the journey here today. Furthermore, considering that we are all linked here today from around the world, all dependent on technology, we may experience temporary problems, such as not hearing or seeing each other. Should this happen to any of the speakers, we would like to let you know that we ask the following speaker to step in and then return to your presentation after that. And we hope that that is okay with everyone. After all, we have about 9 speakers or 10 altogether within the 2-hour framework here today. So adhering to our time frame as best as possible is important. We're aiming to finish on time, and then after, everyone is welcome to stay on for conversation and questions, so we make it more relaxed and afterwards. Thank you for all your understanding and support in all of that. Now, that is now out of the way. At this point, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Dr. Riza Sultani, whose efforts in putting these webinars together deserves recognition. So, Dr. Riza Sultani is the founder of Tourism Webinar. Riza is a specialist in destination marketing, digital tourism, and branding. He is marketing psychologist, lives in Brussels, Belgium. He speaks fluently 7 languages and has lived and worked in 3 continents around the world. Apart from being the founder of Tourism Webinar, Riza has co-founded the Peace Festivals International and is director of Peace Tours International. He is also the director of communication and international relations at the International Institute for Peace through Tourism. Now that we have set the stage for this webinar today, let us begin. I think we're all keen to get started and hear all the beautiful presentations. The first speaker will be Mr. Yi, and I will quickly introduce him as well before he will then share some of his insights of the involvement of this webinar series and the relevance and importance of Buddhist tourism. So if I may introduce Mr. Yi, who is an independent media travel consultant and a veteran award-winning publisher. Currently, he is a publisher and editor-in-chief Beach Travel and the chairman of Pata Chiang Rai Chapter. Mr. Yi also serves as an honorary member of the Mekong Tourism Advisory Group. Since 2006, Mr. Yi has been the managing director of Knowledge Media Group Thailand. Now, very briefly, on a personal note, Mr. Yi is Malaysian citizen by birth and a permanent resident of Hong Kong. And of note, again, I might point out, he has a high command of the English language, speaks Mandarin, Cantonese, Fujin, Thai, Malay, Indonesian, and has a good working knowledge of Japanese and Korean. All skills I have none of, so I'm delighted to point that out. Mr. Yi, I can see you there. May we have the pleasure of your introductory presentation, please? Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Burchett, for the wonderful introduction. Can everybody hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are. All honorable speaker, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining, for your support, and also joining our webinar today. I am extremely delighted that we, the International Buddhist Tourism Conference, or IBTC in short, are able to present you today with the first part of our 4-part series of webinar on Buddhist tourism. A big thank you to our partner, Riza, for his tireless effort to collaborate with us. We've been working in the past few weeks. Actually, we are very quick. We only spent the last few weeks and get it up and running. The idea of organizing this International Buddhist Tourism Conference actually came up in early 2019 when my partner Rinpoche visited me in Chiang Rai, and I took him around Chiang Rai. I showed him a lot of our ancient temples. Some of the temple you will see that some of the presenters will introduce them as well. So he was so impressed that he started to ask me simple questions like, how popular are these temples among tourists? And so naturally, we just started to talk about, that there's not enough awareness, and maybe more tourists should know the value of these ancient temples, and maybe we should do something. So that idea came very naturally that maybe the best way to do it is to organize an international Buddhist travel or Buddhist Tourism Conference. So that will bring about better awareness and also highlight all the potential of Buddhist tourism by working with the government and the private sector. So we were very upbeat and confident that we could do it by next year. That will be 2020. So we started to design the program, and we invited potential speakers. And once we have done the initial homework, Mr. Lim then created a beautiful conference website called BuddhistTourism.org and announcing the date and the venue. And after we have finalized all the program and speaker, of course, and the website was finalized, up and running. In fact, some of the speakers are with us today, like Dr. Victor V, of course, Lim, and also Jen, who will be coming in later. So due to this unexpected and unfortunate COVID-19 pandemic that started March last year, we were forced to cancel our conference venue booking and postpone the conference indefinitely. But nevertheless, we're still hopeful that we will be able to bring life back for the conference once the pandemic is over and be able to organize a face-to-face conference internationally in various countries every year. So in the meantime, we're very pleased to organize a series of webinars during this uncertain COVID time, as we believe that spiritual travel to enhance the well-being of our mental health is utmost important. And these webinars are intended to introduce Buddhist-related travel and pilgrimage activity to provide a platform for organizations and like-minded people related to Buddhist tourism to enable them to connect, share experience, and learn from one another. And this four-part seminar series will be presented as our pre-conference event leading up to the actual conference in future. And today's online meeting is the first of the series. And we have lined up a great panel of expert speakers covering many interesting topics related to the subject. I'm sure all of you will enjoy the meeting and perhaps learn something new to share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yi. That was a wonderful introduction, and we are all delighted to be here. And it is only the start of the series of the webinars, which is great to see because there is so much information that we can all share and learn from. That's very exciting, this project. Hopefully the conference will take part very soon in real time, and we can all then be present there as well. The next speaker along our wonderful session this morning is Professor Victor Wee. The title of the presentation for the Professor Wee is Contribution of Chinese Pilgrims to Buddhist Tourism in India. My brief introduction to Professor Wee. He is currently teaching at Taylor's University in the Faculty of Social Sciences, Food and Leisure Management. And he also sits on the International Advisory Board of Asia Pacific Entrepreneur Award. He had previously served as Secretary General of Ministry of Tourism between 2004 and 2008, and as Chairman of Tourism Malaysia 2009 to 2013. Professor Wee ran Malaysia's most successful tourism campaign, Visit Malaysia, year 2000. And he also led the formulation of Malaysia's Tourism Transformation Program for 2010 to 2020 under Pemandu. He is currently the President of Buddhist Gem Fellowship in Malaysia, as well as Secretary of the International Buddhist Confederation based in New Delhi. Professor Wee, if I may invite you to take the floor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Riza. And thank you, Mr. Jeffrey Yee, for inviting me for this conference. I must say that this conference is also a meeting of old friends, because I have been associated with Mr. Talib Rifai when I was at the Ministry of Tourism Malaysia and also the Chairman of Tourism Malaysia. And I have the pleasure of meeting him not only in Madrid, but in different places where we had meetings. It's such wonderful, we have such a wonderful time together with Mr. Talib Rifai. And I think in 2018, I was invited by the UN WTO to collaborate on a publication of the UN WTO on Buddhist pilgrimage. I didn't know why I was being approached, but I guess some of the officials at the UN WTO know that I'm a Buddhist and thought that, well, maybe we need something to be able to write about Buddhism in Southeast Asia and spread of Buddhism in the world. So I was asked to put up the 2 chapters, and I had Mr. Lim Hui Fong, who is also a speaker here, as my collaborator. So we collaborated on these 2 chapters that went into the publication of UNWTO of Buddhist pilgrimage. Now, of course, a pilgrimage is a spiritual journey for a spiritual purpose, and that is looking for a meaning, purpose, values, or truth. Now, in the case of Buddhism, it is estimated that there is at least about 500 million Buddhists, or 500 million Buddhists all around the world. And certainly one of the very most important destinations for Buddhists are the places connected with the life of the Buddha, which occurred in the Indian subcontinent. And the Buddha lived in the Indian subcontinent about 2,500 years ago. But not many people know that actually we would not have any places to visit in India had it not been for the contributions of the Chinese pilgrims. So I will share the slides, and I will speak from the slides. Are my slides coming on? Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is the contribution of Chinese pilgrims to Buddhist tourism in India. Now, of course, going for a religious or spiritual journey to a sacred place, such as a shrine, a sacred site, or a temple, is really quite important. In the case of Muslims, they go to Mecca. The Christians go over to Bethlehem. The Jews go to the Temple of the Mount in Jerusalem. Hindus will go to Varanasi on River Ganges, of course. There are many other places in India that Hindus would go. But where do the Buddhists go for pilgrimage? Now, according to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta of the Digha Nikaya, this means the collection of the long discourses, Buddhists are advised to go on pilgrimage to 4 holy places that could lead to heavenly births. And there are 4 holy places and 4 places of miracles. Now, the 4 holy places are number 1, Lumbini, which is situated in Nepal, where the Buddha was born. Bodh Gaya was where the Buddha gained enlightenment. Saranath is where he turned the wheel of Dharma, where he taught the first sermon. And Kushinara, where he passed away into Mahaparinibbana. And besides these 4 holy places are 4 places of miracles. In India, you have Shravasti, Rajagaha, Sankhasa, and Vesali. So when a person goes for a pilgrimage by road, it takes about 2 weeks to cover maybe about 7 or 8 of these places for pilgrimage. And this is basically the map of India. And Bodh Gaya is here where the Buddha gained enlightenment. Lumbini was where he was born, up here in Nepal. And the other places that are marked in red are places that are major places connected to the life of the Buddha. Now, as far as the pilgrims of the past are concerned, we know that about 250 years after the Buddha came Emperor Ashoka, who started off not as a Buddhist. He was a conqueror, intent in expanding his empire, which he inherited from his grandfather Chandragupta. All right, but later on during his career as an emperor, he fought a devastating war at Kalinga, and that war made him really depressed when he saw the amount of suffering that he brought to the people. And at that time, he was converted into Buddhism, and he was a completely transformed emperor, building various stupas, and he raised sandstone pillars with animal capital, and many of these stupas and are built to commemorate Buddhism and the Buddha. And on these sandstone pillars are writings, their inscriptions, some of them taken from the Buddhist scriptures. And then there were, of course, Buddhist kings, queens, nobles, and early pilgrims. Now, so Emperor Ashoka brought Buddhism out of India to the other parts of the world, and there was another king by the name of King Kanishka, and he lived in the 1st century Common Era, who actually opened up the Silk Road. And so Buddhism traveled from Central Asia through the Silk Road into China. From China, there were devout Buddhist monks such as Fa Xian, Xuanzang, and Yi Qing. And these Buddhist monks, they were about the 4th to the 7th century, and they were very inspired by Buddhism, but you don't have good records, good translations of the teachings in China, because many of the teachers were Central Asian teachers, the current day Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran. These were Buddhist monks who traveled along to China, and when they started teaching, their Chinese students were trying to translate from their native language into Chinese, so the translations are not good at all. So by the time Buddhism have taken root in China, monks were inspired to travel across the Silk Road, either by land or by sea, to go back to India, the place where they can actually get hold of the actual scriptures and learn from the best masters. Of course, there are many Chinese monks, Chinese and Korean monks that travel from the east to India. Many also died along the Silk Road, but the ones, Fa Xian, Xuanzang, and Yi Qing, became famous because they have left records of their travel. Buddhism actually flourished since the time of the Buddha. By the time when it came to the 5th century, there was the invasion from the White Huns that actually destroyed the Buddhist establishment, including monasteries and stupas, statues, and looted a lot of things. Yeah, and then Buddhism recovered again in India, and the second time it was attacked quite close to the 12th century. This is from the Khaliji Turks from Afghanistan. And with these attacks, the members of the Sangha were removed, monastery was destroyed, universities was burnt to the ground, and there was no one to lead the demoralized laity who were either converted into Islam or absorbed into Jainism or Hinduism as the lowest caste or outcast. So starting from the 13th century onwards, right after the 19th century, Buddhism practically disappeared from the land of its birth. And because Buddhism was actually being brought overseas, first by the efforts of Emperor Ashoka and then under Kanishka, it actually, continued to be practiced like in Sri Lanka, in the Far East. And because Buddhism was lost in India, all records of Buddhist places that was connected to the Buddha completely disappeared. It was lost to memory. Nobody knew. So there were interactions of monks from India to China. The Buddhist doctrine was passed through Central Asia and then to Southeast Asia. And from the 1st century onwards, monks from India and Central Asia traveled to China, and Buddhism started taking root. By the time you come to the 4th century, the Buddhist monks were inspired to travel to India in order to bring back Buddhist texts, scriptures, doctrines, and they also carried Buddhist articles for rituals and ceremonies, and they provided detailed accounts of the spiritual journey to India. However, in India itself, the Indians are not very good in keeping this type of records. You know, they were able to keep teachings. They were able to keep records of teachings, but not travel accounts or places. And this is what the Chinese are good at. Yeah. So India was considered by the Chinese to be a sacred and mystical realm inhabited by civilized and sophisticated people. So the Chinese actually considered India to be a very special place. The purpose of going to India is to return to the source, to learn from the best masters in India, because you have famous universities like Nalanda University, which is already an international university. At its height, it had about 10,000 students. And in order to collect sutras in the original script, the sutras were written in several languages, including Pali and Sanskrit, and they returned back to China to collect with Buddhist statues, relics, and other artifacts. Now, Fa Xian, Xuanzang, and Yi Jing were among hundreds of Chinese monks who made the pilgrimage to India. But because of their detailed accounts, that is why they are more famous than the others. And their accounts record the Buddhist doctrines, the rituals, the monastic institutions, as well as the social and political conditions of South Asia, Central Asia, as well as Southeast Asia. So this was an incredible record of what was actually happening along the journey as well as in India itself. Now, as far as 3 months that we're talking about, Fa Xian, he was in India in 399 to 413, and he traveled from China to India by land and returned back to China by sea. And after him came Xuanzang, who was really famous in the 7th century. He traveled by land from China to India and returned back by land. This is using the Silk Road. And after him was Yi Jing, who traveled to India by sea. And therefore they traveled to Southeast Asia, to Sumatra and Java, in order to see the Buddhist scholarship and the practice of Buddhism in the South Seas. Now, first is Fa Xian. He was born in Shanxi in the 4th century Common Era. He traveled to India, which is considered to be the Holy Land, to bring back Buddhism, especially the Vinaya texts. The Vinaya are the texts related to the monastic codes of conduct. Now, he traveled, his journey to India, to the Taklamakan Desert, was when he was like 60, he was actually 65 years old when he crossed the desert, the Silk Road. Now, the Taklamakan Desert is a huge, very dry and deadly desert. In the word Taklamakan in the Uyghur language means you can go in, it's a desert that you can go in, but you won't come out. So on his return journey from India, he traveled by sea, and the ship was caught in a storm and it was swept for many days off course when they ran out of food and water. And by the time he returned to China, he was already 77 years old. It was incredible, and he wrote a record of Buddhist kingdoms, and he also helped to strengthen Chinese Buddhism with the Sanskrit text that he brought back together with the monastic code. So this is a Fa Xian, and this was his journey, right? He started from Chang'an, which is Xi'an, current day Xi'an. This is the terminal point of the Silk Road. He traveled by land across the Silk Road through Xinjiang area, through the road, and then cross over to the mountains, the Pamir Mountains, landed up in Pakistan, and from Pakistan moved down into the Gangetic Plains, where the Buddha spent 45 years of his life teaching the Dhamma. And after which he traveled to Sri Lanka, spent 2 years in Sri Lanka making a detailed record of Buddhism that was being practiced in Sri Lanka, and then went by sea, traveling by sea, where he was the journey was actually quite terrible. On 2 occasions he was swept off course and ran out of food, and and eventually returned back to China. So this is a map showing the travel of for Asean. The next famous monk was Xuan Zhang. He was a great, he was a Buddhist monk, great scholar, translator who traveled from China to India. And because the scriptures was not complete in China, so he decided to go to India to bring the untranslated original Sanskrit text, especially the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra. He was interested in meditation. This Yogacara Bhumi Shastra is a treatise on meditation that was very, that was that nobody, the monks in China were not able to answer many of the questions he raised about the sutras. So he had to go to India to study under the best teachers. In the case of Xuan Zhang, he started off from Xi'an. His journey to the west was forbidden by the emperor because there was a war with the Turks, and the king forbade anyone to leave the country. And he applied for his travel papers on 3 occasions. 3 times he was turned down. So he had to sneak out of China to get to India at the risk of being executed if he were caught. The good thing about Xuan Zhang was that he kept a very detailed record of the people, of the agriculture, of the trade, of the kings, and everything else. And this all kept in his record as he journeyed through the Silk Road to India and his journey back. So there was 17 years of journey recorded in the Great Town Records of the Western region. And this becomes a wealth of precise information of great value to historians and archaeologists. And the English archaeologist Alexander Cunningham make use of his records that was translated into French and later on to English, and use this to track down the places of Buddhist pilgrimage. Before that, they didn't even know whether the Buddha was a real person or he was a legend. And these places are completely lost in India because for 700 years Buddhism was completely gone in India. And by using Xuan Zhang's record and also the record of Asean, they were able to uncover one by one of these places that we now go for Buddhist pilgrimage. And after him was Yi Ching. Yi Ching traveled to India and returned. His entire journey was by sea. He traveled. He went to Nalanda University, which is the top university in Buddhist studies. Of course, there were a few other Buddhist universities, but Nalanda was like the Harvard for Buddhist studies at that time. And he returned with 500,000 Sanskrit stanzas, translated 60 sutras into Chinese, and 11 Buddhist tantras and 18 works of monastic discipline. And he's written a book called A Record of Buddhist Religion as Practiced in India and the Malay Archipelago. Because he went by sea, he could actually witness Buddhism as being practiced in Sumatra and also Java. And that gives us a lot of information about the kingdom of Srivijaya, which was a Buddhist kingdom in Sumatra. Of course, he make record of Nalanda and all, but his records are not as detailed as Xuan Zhang. So some of the discoveries of the holy sites, as I mentioned, Buddhism disappeared in India for centuries, and the Buddhist Raj came with scholars and explorers, And they found the Ashokan inscription in 1750. And Alexander Cunningham went to India as an English official, but he got interested in archaeology and later on became the first Director General of Archaeology in India. And he restored and discovered many of these archaeological places, and using the records of Asean and Xuanzang. Saranath was the first place discovered. Actually, how they discovered Saranath was because one whole big stupa was being torn down in order to use the bricks to build a marketplace. And this was reported in a kind of newspaper. What was interesting was some inscription was found in a box that was buried inside the stupa. And then when Alexander Cunningham started looking into it, he discovered that actually there was a mention about some reference to the Buddha. And when he did this excavation and checking that against Xuanzang's record, he actually discovered that this was the site where the Buddha taught the first sermon. And after that, they started...
May I just point out our timing? Can I give you one more minute? Thank you very much.
Okay, so using the records, they were able to get Lumbini, which was the birthplace of the Buddha, a Mahabodhi where the Buddha was enlightened, because this was again completely lost, and then Kushinara where the Buddha passed away. So all these four major places is based on the records of the Chinese monks. And recently there is an engineer by the name of Deepak Anand who also used Xuanzang's record in order to discover other places that is not known yet. And this is some of the maps that he has mapped up using Xuanzang's records. And so Xuanzang's travelogue has given us that detailed information. Without Xuanzang and for ASEAN, there will be no Buddhist pilgrimage sites to visit in India. All right, so these are some interesting things about the contribution of the Buddhist, Chinese Buddhist monks to the Buddhist pilgrimage that we now go to in India. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wee. It was most insightful and provided all of us with the most valuable background into what we're talking about today. I certainly very much appreciate it. Already we have had lots of questions, people asking if they have access to all the slides. And yes, indeed, everyone will have access to these slides on the tourism webinar. So please go ahead after the session when Riza has posted all of that. So with all of that introduction, I would be delighted to now introduce Dr. Ajahn Suti, who will be talking about Buddhist pilgrimage in Thailand and beyond, meaning of pilgrimage in the Buddha's world. Briefly to introduce Dr. Saji, who is the assistant abbot at Wat Prakawi in Thailand. He is a lecturer at the Chiang Rai Buddhist College at the university in a destination place I cannot pronounce, and I do apologize for that. I've tried a few times. And he is a director of the Chiang Rai Buddhist Radio. Dr. Ajahn Suti is a Dhammata Dukkha monk at Wat Thai Kusinara, Kushinika, India. He holds a PhD from Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi in India. Since 1997, Dr. Ajahn Suti has been a guide and tour leader for the Buddhist pilgrimage to Buddhist sites in India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Indonesia, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand. Since 2001, Dr. Ajahn Suti is a mentor in the training program for monk guides in Buddhist pilgrimage and tours. Dr. Ajahn Suti, may I give the floor to you, please? We cannot hear you, Dr. Suti.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Thank you.
Thank you very much for introduction, and hi to all, to everyone. I think I am only a monk here in this webinar. First of all, I want to pay respect to the Lord Buddha, to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha, the three team that we follow. May all you and all sentient beings be happy. Thank you for Dr. Wee for introduction to Buddhist pilgrimage in India. And I, as a monk who work in the temple, I do propagation of Buddhism to people. I hold a chanting group every Saturday, and also some author activities to propagate Buddhism among Thai people. And for pilgrimage and tour is one of the activities. So almost every year, I take Thai pilgrims to visit India and other places. So I want to talk on behalf or on perspective of the monks who undergo a pilgrimage in various sites. So that's my point. I want to share screen. This moment. Can you see the screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, now we can.
Just a moment. In my I don't know that is okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just a moment. Yeah. In my opinion, I saw pilgrimage in two ways. One is called inner pilgrimage. That is, according to the Buddha, we should go inside ourselves to see our body and mind. This is a way of practice meditation, as mentioned in Mahasatipatthana Sutta. We contemplate the body like the breath, or the posture, the whole body parts, all that to contemplation of the body, and also contemplation of feeling, like it's called in Mahasatipatthana Sutta, it's called Vedananupassana Satipatthana. That's contemplation of the feeling. When we got the feeling pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, we know that it's just the feeling. It's not mind, it's not I, it's not self. And also contemplation of the mind, Chittanupassana Satipatthana, that we understand the condition of our mind. When the mind had greed, hatred, delusion, we know that what the condition of the mind, that at the moment, see the present moment of the mind. And the last section on Mahasatipatthana Sutta, that the Buddha talk about the way to do insight meditation, he say about contemplation of mental objects. Anything that happen in the world that we can hear, we can see, we can smell, all the things considered as mental objects. That all mental objects we can use as the tool to practice meditation, to see what happened, what's going on, and take that into consideration, take that into reflection, so we can learn from that thing. So all this a kind of understand oneself and understand the others. So in my opinion, we have two kinds of pilgrimage. One is inner pilgrimage, that you go to inside your body and your mind, you try to understand your body and your mind. Start from understand your breathing. When you're breathing in, when you are breathing in, you know that you are breathing in. When you're breathing out, you know you are breathing out. When you move your hand, you stretch, you do anything, posture or anything, eating, walking, sitting, all that, we see the present moment of our body. And also see the mind that wandering, or the mind that have hatred, delusion, all that thing. So this, I think, the thing that called inner or practice of meditation. And another one is outer pilgrimage. That's visiting holy places, having experience, see the thing, everything that you enter, you encounter the experience, and take that experience into your consideration, into your reflection. So it gives you an impression, it gives you a reflection, it gives you to understand something, especially understand about the characteristic of all phenomena. All phenomena come under impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. So we see all that from the thing that we see in the way, on the way. So we go to pilgrimage site to experience and take into ourselves, take into your mind, into our mind, and consider it and understand it, learn from it. Whatever we encounter in on the way. As Dr. V just said, there are 4 places according to the Buddha that mentioned in Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Before the Buddha passed away, he suggests 4 places that devotees should visit. As you know, the 4 places that. But why the Buddha suggests that? He used the word he called Sangvechaniya. This Sangvechaniya Sathana. Sathan mean places. Sangvechaniya mean where devotee get inspired to make all out effort to reach enlightenment. Because you see that the place at the time of the Buddha, he was great, he's perfect, but he passed away. All the people around him, all arahant, all disciples, many happened in the history, and then everything gone, nothing. Even the place sometimes is very flourished, very developed, but right now it's just in ruin. It's just a monument, just a kind of historical park, just that. So we see impermanence of all things from what you see. This, I think, the main thing that the Buddha wants us to go travel. Even at the time of the Buddha didn't stay just one place. He never have permanent residence. He wandered everywhere in northern India. So this is the main thing. Then when the monk go for pilgrimage or go for wandering the places, they get experience and they take that experience into their own mind and try to understand what happened and what is the reality, what is the truth. That's, I think, the main point. So it called, when we say Sangvechaniya, sometimes they translate as the place that the people can have the sense of urgency to pursue your eightfold path, to follow your eightfold path, to follow the Buddha steps. And that's the main thing, I think. As Dr. V just said about the place at the Buddha walk. And this is called Buddhist Circuit in India. 30 years ago, I took a pilgrimage myself, and also sometimes I took people to pilgrimage around. Suppose like the way from Bodh Gaya to Varanasi, the place that the Buddha enlightened to Varanasi, we took Grand Trunk Road or Grand Trunk Road. This is the main highway in India. It's just 256 kilometers, but usually we spend around 13 hours. Sometimes we have to spend a night on the bus, on the coaching bus, because traffic so jam. That's 30 years ago. But at the present time, it takes around 5 hours to 6 hours. 30 years ago, we have to depart from Bodh Gaya at around 3 o'clock to prevent the traffic jam on the way. But sometimes even you take 3 o'clock, you start from 3 o'clock, but you have to spend the night on the way because the traffic so jam. And what we do on the way, that we have to spend many hours on the bus, is duty, responsibility for the monks to lecture, to give lecture, Dhamma talk, Dhamma discussion, leading in chanting, telling story, everything that we encounter on the way, we related all that thing into the Buddha story. like you see mango tree, we relate mango tree to the Buddha. When we see rice field, we relate rice field to the Buddha. Everything bring to the Buddha. And within 7 days or a week, before that, usually we take around 2 weeks to complete Buddhist Circuit. But mostly at the present time, it takes around 8 days. It takes to take full Buddhist Circuit. It takes around 8 days. But for that, all 8 days, within 8 days, we have to teach people the pilgrimage to understand Buddhism. Usually, when they are in Thailand or in their own country, they have no time to learn Buddhism in depth. So this is the best chance because they cannot run away. They have to do in the bus.
May I quickly interrupt if I take the chance? Can I give you a couple more minutes to make sure the other speakers also have that time? Thank you very much.
Okay. The picture is taken about 3 years ago. That this the group of the monks who walked in Buddhist Circuit. It took around two months to complete for Buddhist Circuit. Like from Bodh Gaya to Varanasi, it takes around 11 days by walking like this. We have Thai monks, many group of Thai monks who go for pilgrimage by this way, just walk from one place to another place. And they have no accommodation, they have no toilet on the way. It's just to encounter some difficulties and let them learn something, especially about patience, And this is the number of tourists. Last many years ago, there are not many tourists, but now we have almost 2 million international pilgrims to visit to India. And every year there are around 30,000 Thai pilgrims, Thai tourists visit Buddhist Circuit.
Once again, can I just possibly ask you to come to a conclusion? That would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have many places in India that right now we try to develop, and also other countries, and many countries that it should be a resource for pilgrimage site like Japan, Indonesia, Myanmar, Tibet, many Buddhist countries that should be like the place that we should go for pilgrimage. Even in Thailand itself, I take people to Chiang Saen, to Sukhothai for pilgrimage, like this, walking from one temple to another temple to do meditation, to do chanting, also telling story, all that. This is the way that we practice together in Thailand. Thank you. Just complete that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, a very, very enlightening presentation. And it links beautifully to the first one. It highlights the connection between Buddhism and travel and tourism in so many ways, and the meanings and the benefits of traveling for all these purposes. So very, very enlightening. Thank you so much. It is about inner and outer peace, which I can see as the result of that. Now that we've had the first two presentations, I can just point out to stick to as possible to a time limit. Otherwise, we will be exceeding the 2 hours, and I'm not sure that everybody can stay for that period. Our next speaker is Mr. Dorji Jadul. The topic of this particular presentation is Bhutan Abadil, a space for spiritual awakening. Mr. Dorji Jadul, again, sorry my pronunciation, Mr. Dorji Jadul is the Director General of the Tourism Council of Bhutan. He served as Governor of Gaza District for almost 4 years and has worked in various capacities in the fields of agricultural research, policy and development. Mr. Jadul was also the founding director of the Department of Agriculture, Marketing and Cooperatives and the founding registrar of cooperatives in Bhutan. As the Director General of Tourism Council, Mr. Jadul's vision is to take tourism to the top in terms of revenue generation, as well as making Bhutan the #1 travel destination in the world. He hopes the journeys visitors make to Bhutan will make them reflect on the importance of living in harmony with nature, and that the experience of the living, breathing, living culture amidst pristine forests, virgin mountains, and fast-flowing rivers, and the simple life and genuine warm smiles will make visitors champions of sustainable and responsible tourism in all the other journeys in the world. And that links beautifully to the previous presentation. May I now give the floor to Mr. Tradul, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction. And as been introduced, I'm not a Buddhist scholar as such. I mean, definitely not a Buddhist scholar. So therefore, my presentation is mainly from the tourism perspective. So basically, I will be trying to introduce my country from a potentiality of as a destination for Buddhism or tourism. So that will be the gist of my presentation. And I know, at least from amongst the panelists, I know Mr. Talif Rafil. We had the honor of having him here in our country when he was serving as the UN WTO Secretary General. And I'm sure there must be many others here who have already been to Bhutan. But those who have not been to Bhutan, we are most happy to welcome you all to Bhutan. Now I have a presentation. I'll share this. Okay. So as I said, my presentation will be basically, we'll follow this outline. We introduce Bhutan tourism policy practice, Buddhism in Bhutan, and Buddhism, tourism, and selected sacred sites. So basically, I will be trying to introduce my country with respect to Buddhism. So this slide basically shows my country here and the location, as we know that not many people still know about Bhutan. So we have China in the north and India in the south. Then this is our national flag, and this is our most important, the Raven Crown of our Wangchuk dynasty. We are, of course, a democratic constitutional monarchy, but the kings are still the head of the state and very much actively guiding our country. And of course, some of you might be knowing Bhutan, until very recent, is the first carbon negative country. And of course, our development philosophy is gross national happiness. And we have a very small population, maybe about 700,000. Then, of course, briefly on tourism policy. So our tourism actually started only in early 70s. So in fact, we have just marked our 50 years of tourism in Bhutan on 1st December. And since the start of our tourism in the early 70s, we adopted and practiced a very unique tourism policy known as high value, low volume, which was again envisioned by our fourth king when he was at the helm of the nation. These are some of the key underlying principles of high value, low volume principle: happiness of citizens and tourists, sustainability, inclusive and equitable culture in environment preservation, promotion, immersive, mindful, responsible, quality over quantity, about mass over tourism, and beyond revenue and receipts, and less is more. So as you can see, our tourism policy is kind of already spiritual in content and objective. Okay, I think I'll just skip this. Then now coming to Buddhism, Buddhism in Bhutan. Maybe as of today, we are the only Tantric Vajrayana Buddhism of a Mahayana Buddhism kingdom in the world. And by our constitution, it states that Buddhism is the spiritual heritage for promoting or for ensuring peace, non-violence, compassion, and tolerance. That is in our constitution, but at the same time, in our constitution, it also gives the freedom of religion. People can practice whatever religion they want. No one shall be compelled to belong to another faith, and all persons are equal before law, regardless of religion or race. So this is in our constitution. So basically to say, while we are a Buddhist kingdom, but other religions are also allowed to practice. I mean, there's no, okay. Then the first time the Buddhism was introduced in 7th century, actually, by a Tibetan king called Songtsen Gampo. And then this was followed by a formal introduction in 8th century by a Buddhist master known as Guru Rinpoche. And he's in Bhutan, he's regarded as the second Buddha, but actually he comes from India. Then in the 12th century, we have again a visit by a great Buddhist master from Tibet, Kunken Longchen Ramjampa. And then from 13th century, we have Pema Lingpa, another great Buddhist master. He was born in Bhutan. And then, of course, we have this at the same time, Drukpa Kile, who is also known as the divine madman. He also comes from Tibet, but he was in Bhutan. Then, of course, finally, we have Shabdung Awan Namgyal. Again, he is one of the most important Buddhist master who actually unified the country and made a country into a Drukpa Kayupa sect under Buddhism. Of course, in the past also, our Buddhism has country has attracted, as I said earlier. I mean, all our Buddhist masters were coming as a tourist for a country. In a way, you can take it that sense from a tourist point of view. But at the same time, Bhutanese by nature, by tradition, we have been traveling on the pilgrimages. Like, for instance, we have been traveling to Bangladesh, China, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand on pilgrimages from Bhutanese. I mean, we have been traveling out. And then in Bhutan also, if you go by 2019 figure, about 90% of the tourists who have visited Bhutan said actually they have come to Bhutan mainly for cultural sites, and which actually includes the religious sites like temples, monasteries, and meditation. And as of today, Bhutan could be having the largest thangkas. The thangkas are the religious masters, embroidered and painted on the clothes. And also, Bhutan, as of today, has one of the world's largest and the tallest Sakya Muni Bodhi with the height of about 54 meters. Then, of course, by tradition, all Bhutanese homes have an altar room. We have more monks than soldiers. We have a largest number of fluttering prayer flags. We have talking and flying sacred statues, burning lakes, and spirited trees, caves, and mountains. These are all related to religions, Buddhism, living incarnations of Buddhist masters. And again, while this is also for health, but at the same time, this also has religious implication. Smoking as well as sale of tobacco products are illegal in our country. We are forbidden to climb high peaks above 6,000 meters. That is also in respect for, because we believe all our mountains and lakes and ponds are actually have their own guardians. And Bhutanese also believe that Bhutan to be the center of the earth from Buddhist perspective.
Mr. Trudeau, sorry, can I don't want to be impolite, but I'm just looking at the slides. I'm not sure how many you might have. If we can just bear in mind the time frame, that would be much appreciated again.
Okay, no, I'll just rush it. Now, basically, I just share with some of the selected sacred sites in Bhutan. As I said, I'm trying to promote Bhutan as a potential destination for Buddhism tourism. Now, whole Bhutan as a Beul, which is the topic of my presentation. Basically, Beul can be easily translated or understood as a Shangri-La of the James Hilton's Shangri-La in the Lost Horizon, a place where it is a perfect. So the whole country is considered as a Shangri-La by a Buddhist follower, but at the same time, the normal tourists also consider Bhutan as a Shangri-La. Then these are the two, we have two very old temples from the 7th century. I'll just skip this. Then we have some sacred sites related to Guru Rinpoche. As I said earlier, we have the famous, the Tiger Nest, which is one of the iconic tourism sites in the country. We have another one in Bhutan. Sorry. Okay, so this is the Guru Rinpoche, and then we have Pyungchen Longchen. This is another master who came in 13th century. Then again, the divine madman who came in the 14th century. And again, this is very interesting. We have, as of today, a place called Chandana, a temple, wherein Guru Drukpa Khyentse, when he was in Tibet, he shot an arrow from Tibet, and that arrow landed in Bhutan, in this place called Chandana. And today you can still see that ladder where this arrow landed. So this is a great pilgrimage site there. And then we have a Chimilagang, again, related to this Lama, wherein the childless couples can be blessed with the children. Then the great master, the Pema Lingpa, we have the burning lake, which I was talking about. It is a lake wherein this the treasure reveler, Tetan Pema Lingpa is treasure reveler. For the first time, he actually jumped into this lake, and then with a butter lamp in his hand, he dived inside and he came up with the treasure, and the butter lamp was still on actually. I think I have to rush. So Shabring Rinpoche, basically he unified a country. He made a country into one solid state. And then of course, he has so many other sites, but his biggest contribution in terms of the monument is that he's considered as the greatest builders of the zongs. I think Bridget is really getting nervous. Let me rush. Now, these are just some slides, actually, pictures. So this is a Buddhist scripture. And this is a Thongdril, which I talked about, Thongdril, the large Thangkas. This is a Kichul Hagang. This is a Jambel Hagang. I mean, these are from 7th century. These are monasteries from 7th century. And this is another stupa here, which is considered as a replica of a Bodhanath in Nepal, Kathmandu. This is a Dzong, which I talked about. This is another Dzong in the capital city. This is another Dzong. And this is the prayer fluttering, the fluttering prayer flags, which I just mentioned. These are some monks. And of course, this is the one of the largest and tallest Sakyamuni Buddha statue, which stands in Thimphu, the capital city. And of course, this is the burning lake, which I was just trying to describe. And of course, this is another monastery, which is named after Nalanda, the great Hindu, Buddhist university in India. And this is considered as of an equal kind of a sacredness with Nalanda. This is another monastery in Bhutan, which is considered as a second Marathika. Marathika is another great pilgrimage site in Nepal, actually. And then this is the temple which actually blesses the childless people with the child. And this is the wooden stair I'm talking about. That actually took the arrow that was shot from Tibet. You can still see this. You can come and see this ladder. And this is the place where you can see this ladder. And this is the birthplace of our great master, Pema Lingpa. And I'm actually at the end of my presentation. So I was really rushing. But as you have been informed, this presentation will be shared. If any one of you are interested, you can always contact me. I'll be more than happy to make a personal presentation to any one of you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. If I just may add, Bridget, and all the PowerPoints will be available with the recording on the website. So your PowerPoints will be also available to anybody who wants to see them. Thank you.
Thank you, Riza. I was about to point that out too. It is obviously apparent that we are all very passionate about the topic today and what we are doing in our lives and what we are connected with. So thank you very, very much to share that passion, if I may say so. May I now introduce Dr. Talib Rifai, who to many of you, as we could see already, is very familiar. Ms. Dr. Rifai will be talking about the importance of world tourism. So we're traveling from Buddhism right into tourism. We can definitely see the connection between the two spheres of our topic today. Just a very brief introduction for Dr. Talib Rifai, for those who are not familiar with him. He is a Jordanian economist, was a Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization based in Madrid, Spain, until the end of December 2017, having held the position since being unanimously elected in 2010. He assumed the function of Secretary General at interim of the World Tourism Organization from March 2009 and served as Deputy Secretary General from February 2006 to 2009. Prior to joining UWTO, he was the Assistant Director General of the International Labour Organization. And Dr. Rifai has also served in several ministerial portfolios in the government of Jordan as the Minister for Planning and International Cooperation, and also as the Minister of Information and the Minister of Tourism and Antiquity. It is my pleasure, Dr. Talib Rifai, to offer the floor to you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for your very kind introduction. I'm not sure I deserve all of that. I want to make 3 comments, please. Number 1 is to thank everybody, especially Victor Wee, and the gentleman after him for introducing us to this topic. I think Victor has proven once again he's an encyclopedia when it comes to any research matter. I'm not a Buddhist myself. I'm a Muslim living in Jordan, but I'm fascinated with Buddhism. I visited Bhutan 3-4 times. One of the visits, I was taken on a trip up the mountains to see a baby Buddha, a child Buddha. It was really fascinating. Bhutan is a very special country. You know, I'm asked many times, visited so many countries around the world, which is your favorite country? My first reaction is, they're all my children. How can you choose which is your favorite child? But Bhutan stands out. I always mention that. Bhutan is very, very authentic, beautiful country. You go there, people are still wearing same clothes they wore 1,000 years ago, living in the same houses and the same rooftops. So Bhutan is very special. You have not visited Bhutan, have not done yourself any injustice. You should visit Bhutan once in a lifetime, at least once. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Now, Buddhism. Buddhism is a very important brand by itself. I'm a member of the Royal Committee for the development of the baptism site of Jesus Christ here in Jordan. And that is not just Christian site, it's a humanity site. Christianity, like Buddhism, has an international appeal. And I believe that we need to internationalize visits to Buddhist site. We have to. We have to create routes, just like we have that in Camino Santiago, north of Spain, for the St. Peter, I think, which is Santiago. They walk, and I am very, very fond of the monks that walk these distances. I think walking would be a very good example of how to interact with the local community, which is what tourism is all about. Tourism is about lowering the walls and barriers between visiting communities and local communities. Visitors must be fully respectful of everything they visit. It's up to them to make their experience an authentic one, or to just throw it aside. I think walking, cycling, or riding horses, or any kind of transportation, animal transportation, is a good idea. To go all in northern India, Bhutan and Nepal, that's a very good product that needs to be developed for everybody, not just for the Buddhists, not just for the Asians, for every citizen around the world. I'm a Muslim, but I would love to go. It's a spiritual experience. It's all together. So my claim to you, let's internationalize this. Let's make it a world product, not just a Buddhist product. It's not just a religious thing. It's much more than this. Buddhism is a brand that nobody can discuss or argue. It's a wonderful brand. Let's make the best out of it. We need to recreate the routes and the maps. I'm going to stop here. I know I've not had a visual presentation, but I will respect others' time, and I'm ready to answer any question or engage in any dialogue we come later. Thank you so much, Brigitte. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, Dr. Tamarifai. Again, your concluding remarks and linking it into the bigger stage of tourism. And I really enjoyed the point that Buddhist tourism as such is something much valuable for everyone beyond the Asian perspective, and it should be.
That's right.
It deserves to be fostered towards the mindsets of everyone around the world. So thank you very much for that perspective.
You're welcome.
Our next presenter is Mr. Lim Koi Fong. He will be talking about towards sustainable development of Buddhist tourism in Southeast Asia. A quick introduction. Mr. Lim Koi Fong is owner and founder of Buddha Vision, the company that manages and owns the Buddha channel. He is also the founder and owner of Buddhist Travel, the only website in the world dedicated to the promotion of tourism in the Buddhist world. He also pioneered the use of internet for Buddhist organizations in Malaysia, with the Buddhist channel becoming the first web portal in the world dedicated to Buddhist news coming online in 2001. He currently manages a web publishing company based in Petaling, in Malaysia. One point is important to mention here, which then relates to his presentation. He is a co-author with Professor Dr. Victor V of a UNWT book titled Buddhist Tourism in Asia, Prospects and Sustainability, which was published in 2020. May I give the floor now to Mr. Fong, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Brigitte. Thank you for the very well, worded introduction. My presentation is basically a kind of a report that I co-wrote this section on towards sustainable Buddhist tourism development in Southeast Asia, which is part of the Buddhist Tourism in Asia book, okay, published by the UNWTO in 2020. Okay. So basically, I will share the slides. Not many slides. I have only 7. So basically, Southeast Asia is a has a rich Buddhist tradition, okay, and it has beautiful temples, beautiful culture, beautiful Buddhist culture, and many people who come to Southeast Asia not only enjoy the culture, but also Buddhism in its most colorful aspect, okay. So there are approximately about 190 to 205 million Buddhists in Southeast Asia. It is the second largest religious group after Islam. And interestingly, about 35 to 38% of the global Buddhist population resides in Southeast Asia. Okay, these are very interesting statistics. And Buddhism forms the majority religion in 5 out of the 10 ASEAN countries. So Southeast Asia comprises of 10 countries. If you're familiar with it, you have Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, okay, on the mainland, and Malaysia. And you have the islands, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, and East Timor. Okay, so basically we have a big group of Buddhists here in Southeast Asia, and they practice a very intercultural kind of Buddhism that mixes very well with their own local people. So the major Buddhist countries in ASEAN are these, okay. Those highlighted in red signify the majority, making it the Buddhists the majority of the country, namely Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Cambodia, right? While Malaysia has a significant Buddhist population, although it's a Muslim country, about 20%, Singapore 33%, and Indonesia 2%, right? And being the majority of these Buddhist countries, out of these 5 countries here, only Vietnam stand out as non-Theravada Buddhism. The rest practices a Southern school kind of Buddhism called Theravada Buddhism, all right, which is called the religions of the elders. And this is a map that shows the distribution of the type of Buddhism that is practiced in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia, sorry. So the Theravada school or the Southern school, which originate from the Sri Lanka, because when Indian Buddhism died off, right? The Sri Lanka monks chronicled the Buddhist teaching, and then they call it the teachings of the elders, which is also known as the Theravada school. So these Theravada Buddhism are the one that is exported to Southeast Asia. Okay, and predominantly Theravada Buddhism is practiced in Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. You can see a difference in the type of a practice. If you go to say China, Japan, or Korea, those are called the Northern schools or the Mahayana Buddhism, which has a significant there's a significant difference in the type of practice. Okay, so the Southeast Asia I would call it as one of the guardian of the Theravada Buddhist school. And you can see it very visibly if you visit these countries. The Mahayana Buddhism predominantly exists in Vietnam. Okay, so these are the type of Buddhism that you can see in China, Korea, and Japan. Okay, and you can visibly see the practices as in Vietnam. For some reason, Malaysia and Singapore is pretty mixed up. They do not have a specific school that is predominant because the population is all mixed up. You have Malay, Chinese, Indian, and they speak all sort of languages, Chinese, Malay, English. The food is all mixed up. So everything is mixed up. Even now, the Buddhism is mixed up. Okay. So if you go to certain temples in Malaysia, you can see one temple is a Theravada Buddhist school. Within a few kilometers away, you can see a Mahayana Buddhist school. So it's kind of like, here and there. Now, as I mentioned before, Southeast Asia contains a rich Buddhist tradition because it has been here for at least 1,500 years old. Okay, and it has a rich, spectacular Buddhist tangibles in terms of its temples. Outside of Southeast Asia houses one of the world's most spectacular tangibles of Buddhist architecture and heritage anywhere in the world. Seriously. Okay, so apart from India or even Sri Lanka, the other locations that you can find truly magnificent temples are in Southeast Asia. So for instance, in Cambodia, it is the only one country in Asia that has the most historical sites of more than 1,000 temples. All of them more than 1,000 years old. Okay, and in Thailand, for instance, you have your beautiful old cities of Ayutthaya and Sukhothai, and all these beautiful temples in all the major cities. In Indonesia, although now a Muslim country, you have this wonderful Borobudur. Okay, Cambodia, the Angkor Wat complex, and Laos, you have this quaint, elegant Luang Prabang. It's nothing, as magnificent as the other places. But in terms of exquisiteness, in terms of elegance, Prabhupada has his own style. All right, and of course Bagan and Shwedagon in Myanmar, and these are the key places that you can visit when you come to Southeast Asia. So you can see here is a kind of a snapshot of immensely beautiful temples. All right, if you are a photographer or you're Instagrammer, I tell you, Southeast Asia is a dream world for you. In terms of if you want to become a Buddhist influencer, for instance, come to Southeast Asia. So we're not talking about only the tangibles, we are also looking at the intangibles. All right, we have colorful, diverse intangibles. In what sense? So we have the temples and the communities around them. Okay, so it's not just the physical temple itself, but the involvement of communities in festivals, in the rites and the rituals. Okay, when you come to Southeast Asia, all right, you don't just come to pray. You join in their activities, their food. Okay, you participate in the community rites, and many of these Buddhist rites are very, very influenced by communal local preferences. So I went to Thailand. It's not just Buddhist, but also Thai culture. So I'm experiencing both ways. Okay, and because they have incorporated Buddhism in their lifestyle, they actually do a lot of like Buddhist things like dana, pindapat, katina, and so this is part and parcel of their life. So when you come to say any of these Buddhist country, you give food to the monks, for instance, you participate in act of dana, for instance, and you can see very clearly there is a continuous symbiosis between the monks and the people. All right, there is this interrelated, kind of community relationship that is never ending. So this is something that is living, that's real, and something that you can really actually experience. Okay, so as I said, it depends on the Buddhist schools that you come from, and the type of Buddhism actually influences the life and practice of these people. So where are the Buddhist circuits in Southeast Asia? So within a country, let's say in Thailand, you can actually go from Sukhothai to Ayutthaya, right? then go down to the surrounding Bangkok, and then the northern region in Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai, and then go down to south, okay? The famous up the northeast region, the Forest Monks region. So in Thailand, you have your own Buddhist circuits. Cambodia, you have Siem Reap in Phnom Penh. Myanmar, you have Bagan, Yangon, Mandalay. All right, so within countries, they have own unique Buddhist circuits. You can just take a tour and enjoy the sites there. Inter-countries, I think Thailand is making efforts to kind of like build inter-countries Buddhist circuits, such as linking up with Thailand, Myanmar, India, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. So I think they are trying to kind of like work out with the airlines to kind of like, you know, promote the circuits among themselves. Example is that Vietnam, all right, they get a lot of spillover from Siem Reap because of it's so easy to cross the border there. Okay, so if you have if the Vietnamese authorities, tourism authorities are clever, they should work together with Siem Reap, because Siem Reap gets a lot of international tourists who goes to Angkor Wat. All right, if they just do some cross marketing, right, and they can easily draw in the crowds and go into Vietnam. And Vietnam, you enjoy a totally different culture, Mahayana culture, compared to Siem Reap, which is Theravada culture. Okay, but there are issues facing Buddhist tourism, right? I quickly run through them. Poor branding, terrible branding. Honestly, I tell you, nobody knows about this. We have beautiful sites, As I said, I take beautiful pictures when I put on my Facebook. Everybody say, "Wow, where you go? What kind of paradise is this?" Then I said, "There you go. We have a beautiful paradise, but nobody knows where they are." All right. So very poor branding. We need to do something about that. If the branding is too good, it gets overexposed. They have overcrowding. You have heritage sites under strain. Tourists are not trained to appreciate these heritage sites. They go there. I basically mistreat all these places. It's terrible. Even the locals, number one, they don't even know how to educate the tourists. Okay, so this is a big problem here. And the intangibles now facing pollution, they call it tourism pollution, all right? If the local community finds that it's very lucrative, to bring in all these tourists, they say, okay, let's put up a show. And when they do that, they dilute their tradition. They create fake souvenirs. And it's very bad. It becomes money-minded, This is something that rankles me. Knowledge of the local guys on Buddhism is so poor. When I go to Thailand, I go to Myanmar, I go to Cambodia, I have to correct them. I say, look, you're giving wrong information. Then they ask me, how do you know? I say, I read Buddhism, okay? I'm telling you, you're telling them wrong. But it's very difficult because they're not trained. They're not trained to do this. Okay? Very little cross-boundary inter-Buddhist cross-promotions within ASEAN countries. This is something that we have to do, right? Lacking or non-existence of government-level blueprint in developing Buddhist tourism. And I hope that, this kind of conference will lead us to somewhere towards this sort of things, okay? Infrastructure connection, poor, all right? It's either all go to Long Prabang, Siem Reap, or nowhere else. Okay, so we have to do a lot more. Okay, so very quickly we can do a lot of new products, intra-Buddhist circuits or inter-Buddhist. I think we skip this one first. I would like to introduce this one, potential new products. Okay, instead of just focusing on tangibles and intangibles, we look at the mind training of Buddhism, putting in the philosophy into practice, and then bringing it into the life of people. Okay, Thailand has a beautiful a teaching called the sustainable economy. Okay, initiated by the late King Bhumibol. So he adopts Buddhist economics in agritourism. Because self-sustenance is so important in Buddhism. We're talking about self-reflection, we talk about understanding the self. But if we bring this understanding to our economy, for instance, our environment, okay, we actually implement the Buddhist philosophy in a more holistic way. Korea have done very well in temple stays. We have not done anything at all in Thailand, for instance, or even Myanmar, for instance, okay? Why don't we do something like that? You know, introduce temple stays. Many of the temples are empty during work days. Only Saturdays, Sundays they are full. It's wastage, you know, beautiful temples, but nobody goes, except tourists, they walk around. So temple stay is one aspect that we can look into. Ecotourism, right? So you have meditation retreats inside a rainforest, and you have right mindfulness, right, in a local craft building, for instance. This is something that we can explore. Why aren't we using right mindfulness, which is part of the Noble Eightfold Path, as a mind training aspect that can be incorporated into a Buddhist product, Buddhist tourism product? Right?
Mr. Lim, sorry, I will have to again step in. I do apologize. Thank you so much.
All right. So like even in Singapore and Malaysia, right, we can just explore cultural and ethnic diversity within the Buddhist context. Okay. So that's it. That's it for my presentation. I hope you learned something from here. Okay. So you can just download the slides. Information is all there. Thank you very much.
Bhutan is different. Bhutan is different.
Oh, all right. I do apologize for having to step in all the time because there's so much beautiful information. And again, this presentation we've just listened to highlighted the linkage between sustainability and the new ways of doing tourism, really, that we're talking about, and the combination between the tangibles and the intangibles. And I think Buddhist tourism is an example of what actually a new way of doing tourism could be all about, and implement that. I may say so, my personal comment. We have 3 more speakers, and if I may introduce Dr. Andrea Valentin, who takes another perspective altogether. And her topic is a feminist perspective on Buddhism in Myanmar and Thailand. Quickly to introduce Andrea, she has been working as a responsible tourism advisor in Myanmar since 2012, when she has led the Myanmar Do's and Don'ts for Tourists project, which became the official Myanmar guidelines for responsible travellers. She's the founder of Tourism Transparency in the Myanmar CBT network and has advised a variety of tourism development projects in Myanmar over the years. Dr. Valentin received her BA honours of the University of Brighton, and she graduated with a master's and PhD from the University of Otago, which I'm very familiar with, her colleagues, where she worked at the university lecture teaching sustainability research methods and the impact of tourism. Her PhD thesis focused on the politics of tourism in Myanmar. May I ask you to go ahead, Andrea, and present your thoughts? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Birgit, and thank you very much for having me and listening to my talk on a slightly controversial topic, I believe, in Buddhism. I'm going to share my presentation. I hope it works. Yes? Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right. Once again, I feel very humbled to be with you. And thank you very much also to my former colleagues from the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism. Today, I'm going to share my personal thoughts on what I have learned in my time living in Southeast Asia. I recently came back to Germany, so I will begin with my own position, and then I will speak about women in Buddhism and feminist Buddhism. I will speak about Buddhism in Thailand and women in Thai Buddhism. I will speak about Buddhism in Myanmar and women in Myanmar tourism. Short reflections on pilgrimage and tourism, and I will finish off with some concluding thoughts. So let me begin. I'm speaking, once again, I'm very humbled. I'm speaking from my own experience and my own perspective. I'm not a Buddhist scholar, but I have been studying Buddhism for many, many years. I regularly practice meditation. I've taken many Vipassana meditation retreats in both Thailand and in Myanmar. And both countries have been my home since the past 12 years, with particular focus on my work in responsible tourism in Myanmar. And through this work, I believe I have evolved as a feminist, particularly through my work on sustainability and human rights in Myanmar. I'm an academic as well as a practitioner with academic training in the politics of tourism, which I practiced in Myanmar by working on sustainability projects and responsible tourism development from the very north in Kachin to the very south in Tanintay. So I'm very interested in the intersection of Buddhism and women, and in particular, how it relates to sustainability. I believe there is a connection there, and I would like to make my points in the next couple of slides. So let's just begin a little bit about Buddhism in Thailand. I think I'm saying stuff that everybody knows. 95% of Thai people consider themselves Buddhist. Like was mentioned before, it's the Theravada tradition since the 3rd century BC. King Ashoka is said to have sent some Buddhist monks all over the region, including what we consider today Thailand. Thailand has around 38 temples, which are populated by around 300,000 monks. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The Thai monarchy and Buddhism are closely related. And there has been an increased interest by lay persons in the practice of Buddhist meditation throughout Thailand since about the 1950s. And meditation nowadays is practiced in monasteries throughout Thailand by Thai lay people, but also increasingly visiting foreigners. Thailand is very well known as a place for Vipassana meditation retreats. Some teachers particularly stand out. For example, in the very south, we have Suan Mok that is very well known, teaching in English. I myself, I did various Vipassana retreats in the very north, in Chiang Mai, and with different meditation teachers. Women, women in Thai Buddhism. So Thailand did not establish the bhikkhuni lineage of women. So there are no female monks as such, and there are big reservations and legal obstacles from the government, monks, and general populace to change this practice. Women participate in religious life as lay persons in merit-making rituals or by doing domestic work around temples. But some women also choose to become mechi, non-ordained religious specialists who permanently observe the 8 precepts, and those women are wearing the white robe, as you see here. You see some very famous mechis here. Or the 10 precepts, meaning that many of the mechis would wear the brown robe. So these, when you see them on the street, just for you to understand a little bit why some are wearing white and some are wearing brown. Mechis dedicate their life to religion, and they vow celibacy. They live an ascetic life, and they occupy a position between, it's kind of like between an ordinary lay follower and an ordained monastic, somewhere in between. They are still largely marginalized parts of society, and merit making is not the same. So if a lay person would donate to a mechi, it is not, does not seem to be bringing merit to the donor in the same manner that gifts would given to a monk would. And but it's a bit of a gray zone. Bhikkhunis do exist in Thailand, but only those that have ordained in other countries. So before I go into this, I will speak about the bhikkhuni bhikkhunis in general. A bhikkhuni is a fully ordained female monastic in Buddhism, living by the Vinaya, the set of rules. The lineage of female monastics only remained in Mahayana Buddhism, and those are prevalent in China, Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam. And according to the Buddhist Canon, the Tripitaka, women are as capable as men reaching nirvana. However, this is very controversial and is largely unknown by some people. The Buddhist Canon, the order of bhikkhunis, was first created by the Buddha upon specific request of his aunt and foster mother, who became the first ordained bhikkhuni 2,500 years ago. And currently in Thailand, there are around 170 bhikkhunis and 100 novices living in Thailand, spread across several provinces. But again, those bhikkhunis have been ordained in other countries such as Taiwan, Vietnam, or also one bhikkhuni who has been ordained in Sri Lanka. And she is arguably the most well-known, Dhammananda Bhikkhuni. She is a Thai bhikkhuni, having received full monastic ordination of the Theravada tradition in Sri Lanka in 2003. Her mother is largely known as the first modern Thai bhikkhuni. She was ordained as a bhikkhuni in Taiwan in 1971. Venerable Dhammananda is the abbess of Songdhamma Kalyani Monastery, which is a very well-known monastery nearby Bangkok, the only temple in Thailand where there are bhikkhunis, and the name implies that it's the temple where women uphold the Dhamma, what the Buddha taught, the teachings of the Buddha. Before ordination, she graduated with a PhD in philosophy and religious studies and history. And she taught at Thammasat University in Krung Thep for 27 years. And after ordination, she has written more than 100 books to educate about various issues related to Thai Buddhism, including the place of women. She's very well known. And perhaps we can include her with other socially engaged Buddhist writers such as Sulaksi Varaska, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama, and Buddhadasa Bhikkhu. She has repeatedly stated, and it's something that I think particularly Western feminists should remember, that most problems in Thailand must be solved by the Thai people and without the help of outsiders, including critical Western Buddhists. So we should stay humble and believe that the Thai people must solve their own problems. Buddhism in Myanmar, Theravada Buddhism is practiced by nearly 90% of the Myanmar population. Two popular practices stand out in Myanmar, merit making and vipassana meditation. The culture of Myanmar is inseparable from Buddhism, and there are many Buddhist festivals all through the year. Most of them are related to Buddhism. And a Burmese Buddhist household in general, almost every household contains an altar or a shrine to the Buddha with at least one dedicated image or statue of the Buddha. Many Myanmar people practice meditation on a daily basis, and the practice of what the Buddha taught and the Dhamma gives hope to many people in Myanmar until today.
Okay, Andreas, I don't know how many slides you may have. We are running out of time, but please go ahead.
I would like to mention the Tilashin, It's not many more. It's, I think, 2 more. The Tilashin is a Burmese Theravada Buddhist nun. Also similar to Thailand, full ordination is not legal for women in Myanmar. There are about 60,390 Tilashin, according to the state Sangha. And perhaps they're treated a bit more favorably because they do have, they can receive training and they can practice meditation and sit for the same qualifications. I would like to mention a little bit Sayale Ketumala. She's a very well-known Buddhist nun, and she's been quite critical of patriarchal society. She's the founder of Dhamma School Foundation, and she has remarkable success in bringing Buddhist teachings to the mainstream education. She's based in Pa'auk Forest Monastery in Mun State, which is a monastery that I would like to emphasize here. So, concluding thoughts, what does all this mean? What is the future of Buddhism? I have added here a picture of a monk wearing a face mask. COVID has also, of course, affected pilgrimage tourism. And in the past, much travel to and from and between both Myanmar and Thailand has been one of the main travel motivations, pilgrimage. And there is some hope, I think, since 1st November and Thailand has been opened again. It's looking brighter, and even Vipassana centers such as Wat Suan Mok are opening up and are receiving meditators again. In Myanmar, we're not so sure. It's currently still very difficult to enter Myanmar. So, my last thoughts, Birgit, thank you for your patience. I believe there is a powerful confluence of thought and practice, commitment and community in the lives of feminists working for the environment. I'm a responsible tourism advisor. I'm all about sustainable tourism, and Buddhism and feminism benefit from these insights and knowledge of each other to ensure sustainability will truly emerge. Thank you so much. May you all be happy and peaceful.
Thank you, Andrea. Most, again, insightful and from a completely different perspective. To me, it just highlights again and again the point I make that tourism is a microcosm of society, and both interact with each other and have an impact on each other. And when we look at society, we can learn, and we can learn through what you have just presented as well. Thank you so much for that perspective. 2 more presenters we have here today. And again, we have officially only about 10, 12 minutes left. Now, I'm not sure how we would proceed. May we just go ahead and, if I may, introduce Jens Frenhard, who will be talking about what have I learned heading Mekong tourism for 8 years and the potential of Buddhist tourism. Very brief introduction, if I may, Jens. Mr. Frenhard has over 25 years of international travel, tourism and hospitality experience. In 1999, he founded Chameleon Strategies, an affiliate member of the World Tourism Organization, advising tourism organizations and travel businesses how to leverage digital engagement to drive sustainability. Previously, he co-founded the leading travel marketing agency Dragon Trail and headed up the marketing strategy and digital departments of Fairmont Hotels and Resorts, Canadian Tourism Commission and Buffett International. Jens currently leads the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office as its Executive Director, where since 2014 he has spearheaded several award-winning sustainable initiatives. I shall leave it at this, and if I may give the floor to you, Jens, please go ahead. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just share my screen. Okay, good morning, everybody. Actually, it's good morning for me because I'm not with Mekong Tourism anymore. I left in October 31st was my last day. And November 1st, I started a new journey and moved to the Caribbean. And I'm now the Chief Executive Officer of Barbados Tourism. So I'm actually calling you, I think it's around 6:30 or it's almost 7 o'clock here right now. But I was asked to join this important webinar, so I'm very pleased, and it's an honor to be here with you. I'm not going to talk about Barbados today. However, it's a fabulous place, and I hope you can all visit me one day here. And has a lot of unexpected experiences as well, as many people just look at the beaches and the sun and the sand, but it's a lot of innovation when it comes to community-based tourism and responsible tourism here as well. But as it relates to Buddhist tourism and my experiences in the last few years in the Greater Mekong sub-region, just quickly to refresh everyone's mind. So the Greater Mekong sub-region consists of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and Yunnan and Guangxi in China. So the vision is to develop an integrated, prosperous, and equitable and resilient tourism industry with effective partnerships and knowledge management. So the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office is a partnership between those 6 governments to drive responsible and inclusive tourism. So I wanted to quickly go back in terms of what is the Mekong Tourism brand. So the Mekong Tourism brand is really quite interesting because obviously it's a collection of all these different experiences that exist in the Mekong region, from food tourism to heritage tourism to responsible tourism. There's a lot of different cultures that come together. It's actually home to more than 95 different ethnic groups. Each have distinct customs and traditions, and all are reliant on the Mekong River as a life source, but interact with the environment in many different ways. So obviously Buddhist tourism, as we heard from previous speakers, is ingrained into that culture. And anywhere you go, you can see impact of Buddhist tourism. For example, if you go down the streets of Luang Prabang, you see Buddhists walking around in the morning, you see the alms giving. So it's really ingrained into the life of the Mekong region. When we look at today's traveler, especially coming out of the COVID pandemic, hopefully at some point, sustainable tourism obviously reflects the values of today's travelers. People are looking for these authentic experiences, and they also want to support travel experiences that are true to a destination. And they will be looking for companies that really protect the environment and indigenous cultures around the world. So a lot of people are looking to join these companies, and people would also pay more if these companies really can prove that they are true to their nature. In the end, it really comes down to these moments in time. So people are looking to seek life bespoke social interactions that connect them with the essence of a place. So experiential travelers venture beyond the beaten tourist path and dive deeper into authentic local culture. And as you may remember, we've done and leveraged that over the last years by creating our Mekong Moments campaign, which really motivates people to share their moments and tag with #Mekong Moments. So this is really to inspire people about these real experiences and drive this responsible tourism mantra. So that drives really the idea of purposeful travel. And I want to talk to you quickly about purposeful travel, because there's also this idea of mindful travel. And I see the difference with mindful travel being really more spiritual and being in a passive way, being more conscious travelers, which is great. But purposeful travel is more an active way of traveling, where you're really trying to make a difference, where you're looking to contribute to different communities and enriching people's lives, both on the receiver side, but also on the giver side. So I think that's why purposeful travel is a lot stronger of a commitment than mindful travel, but not obviously, forgetting about the power of mindful travel. So we look at the Mekong region, when we did our brand platform, in a way, we look to do it in a bottom-up way. So we look at how can we leverage our assets from cultural heritage to other themes of food and wellness and religious tourism. And so it's really around then the natural assets, the cultural assets, the soft adventures, and these authentic experiences. So they need to drive our brand platform. Normally, when you look at building a brand, it's done in a top-down way, but we wanted to flip the model around and really say, okay, the brand needs to be sustainable, needs to be driven by the people and by the experiences in the Mekong region. So in the end, really what's driving the brand needs to be these experiences of a lifetime. And then, in order to do that, you need to focus on niches. So niches that really speak to the passions of individuals from film, food, fashion, wellness, and many other ones. So that's where we drive and come to this thematic marketing. And there's a lot of themes, obviously, that can evolve by building a brand. Now, when we look at our strategic plan, you see in there that we have identified, and this is a long time ago, 11 thematic routes, and these routes are multi-cultural, in different countries of the Mekong region. So for example, you also have the middle path of Lord Buddha, which you can see here, number 6, which goes from Thailand to Laos, then to from Myanmar to Laos to Thailand, and then also can reach into Vietnam as well. So here's all these different thematic routes, and you can see how they kind of stretch into the different Mekong countries. So obviously Buddhist tourism is a big part of that. And when we look at the middle path of Lord Buddha, you can see where it starts in Yangon, goes to Bago, the Golden Rock, Pagado, Pa'an, and then Mesot, over to Thailand, Sukhothai, and then over to Laos, and then potentially also into Vietnam. So obviously around the region, there's a lot of Buddhist experiences that really drive the feel of the travel and tourism experience in the Mekong region. And I'm not going to go into detail here. You see quite a lot of them. But the key here is that a lot of then the private sector have gone and created experiences. So here's just one that I grabbed, which is a 15 days Thailand Myanmar pilgrimage tour. So again, these things is also, there's a lot of this driven out of India as well. There's a whole association around it that connects, also South Asia with Southeast Asia. So this quickly just wanted to give you a reflection in the interest of time. I think I heard there's one more speaker. I'm going to close here. But just to say, in order to really make this work, it needs to be a bottom-up approach where you engage the people and the businesses, and then you can build this authentic brand that people want to be part of to drive this idea of purposeful travel. So with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Taleb, nice to see you as well.
Always
I think
good
the
to see you.
moderator is on mute. I see her talking, but...
Bridget,
I've muted myself again, Jens, and I remember meeting you and Taleb, of course, in London as the presentation was WTN. So it's nice to see everybody here. Shall we quickly progress into our last speaker? I will certainly not take any time in regards to my own presentation. Next one is Dr. Warasit, who will be talking about urban temples and post-COVID-19 Buddhist tourism. Very briefly, Dr. Warasit is a registered architect and landscape architect in Thailand, and an assistant professor, landscape architect and integrated design and emerging architecture program, Faculty of Architecture, Chiang Mai University. And he received his PhD in historic preservation planning from Cornell University in 2006 and Master of Landscape Architecture from the University of Pennsylvania in 1998. May I just straight away ask you to go ahead, Mr. Warasid, Dr. Warasid, and the floor is yours. Please go ahead. There you are.
So I should share the screen, right? Hi, everyone. It's my honor to be invited to participate in this conference, in this webinar. Thank you, everyone, that invited me and Mr. Jeffrey Yi. Let me begin. Actually, I would like to talk about the situation of the temple in Chiang Mai in the post-COVID-19. We have a situation like Chiang Mai is a #1 destination for domestic tourists in Thailand, but it still have a lot of tourists come from all over the world, especially for visiting Buddhist temple. So what would we do with the temple? What in the future, what the temple should do with the COVID situation? With the document that with the survey, we still #1 for people to come and visit us, and we also entering the stage of nomination for the World Heritage, and we also have been registered as the historic old town of Thailand, the second city after the town of Nan. And the first one, of course, is the historic old town of Bangkok, the Ratanakosin Island. And our town, basically the old town, 1.6 by 1.6 square meter. If it include it's around 5 square kilometer. And it's also include the earth rampart as a wall for the outer ring. So with this situation of COVID, so the government imposed on social distancing. So what should we do with people who coming to the temple? They cannot do meditation. They cannot do the merit making as usual. What we looking at the new way that the young generation who could come to the place instead of foreigner. So look at the situation of Chiang Mai, which basically 1.6 kilometer by 1.6 kilometer. It's basically too far for walking, because walking distance for comfort activity is about 10 to 15 minutes. So the situation would be, how can we organize the new way of tourism? They usually have some, but how can we make it more more organized in terms of bicycle tourism? And within this area of 5.3 square kilometer, we have 73 living temple plus 26 ruins. The desert temple is around 99 sites in total. So basically, Chiang Mai is the highest density of living Buddhist temple in single metropolitan area. Ayutthaya would have more, but most of them desert temple. Chiang Saen or Luang Prabang has less number of the living temples inside, and it's also World Heritage already. So basically, we has been on the tentative list of World Heritage since 2015. How can we mobilize the temple to participate in this campaign? I'm in historic preservation, not really in tourism or not really in Buddhism, but I have the task to put Chiang Mai and its attribute of the temple as a World Heritage, and it's involved with the tourism, and it could encourage the people in tourism to look at Chiang Mai temple in the context of World Heritage. So it need to the Chiang Mai temple need to explain that it could show the potential outstanding universal value that what World Heritage is about. So to meet the 10 criteria of World Heritage, 6 criteria is in cultural value, plus 4 additional criteria in natural value. So the first criteria is the represented, at least to represent a masterpiece of human creative genius. We have Sukhothai. In Southeast Asia, Sukhothai is one of the World Heritage that represent the human creative genius. The other one, Borobudur. So this is basically in par with pyramid, Greek Parthenon, Roman Pantheon, right? So this is a Buddhist heritage that in the same quality of civilization. For the second criteria, to exhibit an important interchange of human value over a span of time, right? In any place in cultural area of the world. So on the development of architecture, technology, town planning, or landscape design. So Luang Prabang and Li Jiang is on this, the one that relate to Buddhism. So to bear the third criteria, to bear a unique or at least exceptional testimony to cultural, sorry, I couldn't see, I have some minor problem with the arrangement of my sorry, the, how can I say it?
If you have any problems with the slides, just go ahead and talk freely. There's no problems at all.
We can read them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have the slides anyway on the websites after all, so no problem.
That's correct.
So in the third criteria is to be outstanding type, right? We have we have those kind of, we have Ayutthaya, we have Wat Phu to represent the third criteria. The fourth criteria to be outstanding example of type of building, architectural ensemble, or landscape which illustrate significant state in human history. So this is the criteria that we have the Hanoi, the portrait Ta Long and Kandy in Sri Lanka, which is another Buddhist cities. So the fifth is the outstanding example of traditional human settlement with representative culture or human and environment, especially when it's become vulnerable under the change. So in this situation, and also Luang Prabang and Li Jiang is under this criteria. So the sixth criteria is the directly or intangibly associated with event or living traditions. So this is more about the ritual that participate with the site. So we see this criteria is Kandi, which is of course really famous for the ritual and procession of the tooth relics, and also the Vaisak Day or Visakha Busha Day for Borobudur. In fact, it's very interesting that the biggest population, Muslim population country have Buddhist holiday as the national holiday, right? So we see how significant it is. So in Chiang Mai, we basically would like to be nominated for 3 criteria, the criteria 2, the criteria 3, and the criteria 4, which basically to demonstrate the interchange of culture and represent of the civilization and architectural significance. So with these 3 criteria, would fit in the Thai Buddhist temple in Chiang Mai, and this is the map and the number of the attribute, the heritage site, mostly Buddhist heritage site that fit in the criteria. So we would explain that Chiang Mai bear the witness of important interchange And we have some certain kind of the ruin in town that represent that. We have the ritual. We have the town that basically have entrance from China.
Dr. Barbados, may I step in again? I can see there's so much information still forthcoming. Could you come to a conclusion very soon?
Yes,
just to make sure that everybody can leave if they want to. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Basically, which is temple, our stupa represent all this mix of culture and also represent the living culture, the ritual that we have at the temple, basically, and also represent the architecture, the different thread of architectural elaboration that came from Sri Lanka, from Bagan, from South China, that happened in Thailand. You can variants of this stupa that you can trace back to Bagan, to Potekaya, to Polonnaruwa in Sri Lanka, and Sukhothai. So, for example, we have different kind of architectural motif that represent different type of Buddhism. The Sri Lankan thread, the Sukhothai thread, and the Bagan thread. And we have significant temple that possess the Lord Buddha relics. That's part of the pilgrimage route too. This is the most important temple in Chiang Mai that bear the Lord Buddha relics that people visit, right? And also, when most of the tourists in the pre-COVID, they would take the Song Thao tuk tuk to visit all this temple, but now they could be on bike with the less number of people, with the social distancing mandate. So we did the different route to show people that they could see different thread of architecture, the type of architecture, and also different thread of Theravada Buddhism that spread to Highland, Southeast Asia. Produce a map. And
once again, Dr. Varasit, yes. So much information to come. Again, the slides and everything will be posted on the webinar's website. So please.
So,
yes.
Okay, try to come to the conclusion. So what we did later, the community also picked it up. The 13 community in the old town joined the bike tour and basically organized the tour for 1.5 months long on every weekend. The question also arises that how can temple be more than the place that they can see only the Buddhist activities? They look for the new thing. They look for the art exhibition that represent the Lord Buddha concept of Dharma. Look for the place that they can have more co-working space or social lives like cafe. And this is the tour that organized later that bring up most of the abbot to explain about the local history of the temple. So basically, this is it. So that's how we want to reinvent the temple. How could it participate in the World Heritage Program? How it could cope with the new social space for the young generation of Thai population? How it reclaim its local knowledge center for the original community that live in the town? That basically for this presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Varasit, and I do apologize for rushing everybody towards the end. I will just quickly step in and make a couple comments, concluding comment. What stands out to me at the end is that obviously places and people are intimately connected, and that is obviously what Buddhism and in a way also tourism is all about and connects it. Again, everybody, the slides, everything will be available on the website. So please do go ahead and tap into all this rich information. Just to conclude, if I may, people sort of wonder how I fit into this, apart from being the moderator, being asked. I was going to talk about Buddhist tourism and special interest to and perspective, which is my specialty. However, I will not go ahead and do any presentation. Just to quickly introduce myself, I hold a PhD in tourism management from the University of Queensland, Australia, with a concentration in social psychology. So I look at tourism from both a sociological and psychological perspective, realizing that place and people, again, as I said, intimately connected, and that the experience of travel is connecting our outer world with the world within. And that came out in all the presentations today. That was wonderful. I have published in top international academic journals and academic textbooks.
On a webinar. I just, it's okay, I just finished presenting.
Almost done. I have published, like many of us, published in top international academic journals and academic textbooks with topics all related to special interest tourism. Someone is not on mute, if I may say so.
Oi, Lily.
Okay, I'll just continue. In 2017, some of my work was published in the Sage Encyclopedia for Travel and Tourism. Again, my contribution there is on special interest tourism. As a founder of the Cultural Angle, what I now do is I continue to follow my passion to educate and inspire. Place and people are intimately connected. We can see it right on screen, can we not? Again, I continue my passion to educate and, particularly with the premise of promoting a thoughtful heart and a caring mind and our aspirations for peaceful travel and peaceful coexistence. As part of this passion aspiration, I have self-published the book that Riza just posted there. It's called The Way of the Peaceful Traveller, Dare to Care and Connect. It is relates to many of the topics that have been presented here today. And I'd be delighted if you explore this a little bit, because I'm basically fostering what we're trying to do is promoting a mindset of the new way of doing tourism and a mindset of responsible and caring ways of travel. That is actually the conclusion of my presentation. It's been such a wonderful journey here today. I'm sure that applies for everyone. And I'd be delighted to have questions and answers session. But because we've run out of time, we've decided to conclude it here for those who have to leave. For anybody who wants to remain, please do so. And then we can go into further discussions and questions. If there's anything right now here, Riza, that you would like to say to conclude?
Yeah, I would like to thank you, Bridget, for such a wonderful moderation that you did today. Thank you so much. You did great. I know you had a great speech to do, but because we are over time, you didn't. But next time, and definitely your book is on the websites and the people can read your biography. You have done an excellent job. Thank you so much, everybody. As Bridget said, so we will stay now. The official webinar is closing, but anybody want to stay and have a questions? I see lots of great friends and colleagues here, so it's not bad that we can have some chat and questions. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day, evening, or night.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, Mr. Jaffe for
Thank
doing
you.
this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then
everybody.
Jens
Thank you.
waking up, and Taleb, and so many friends and colleagues here. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the next one. But I'm sure there are some people who has a question, so you can go ahead and.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and everybody from Myanmar.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and see you. The next webinar will be announced.
All right. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you,
everyone.
Riza.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Taleb.
Thank you, Riza.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, James.
Let's stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.